SLT Mobitel Fiber, the fiber of the nation. SLT Mobitel Fiber, the fiber of the nation.
රෝස සුවඳ තවත් දෙකෝ කලක් රැඳෙන්න ඩබල් පර්ෆියුම් ලුක් සමගින් එන නව සන්ලයිට් රෝස්.
Tonight, careful optimism. Tourism stakeholders call for an end to discriminatory tariffs and urge more measures to tide them by.
Even though that we are not paying the installment, it has got accumulated and there is additional interest collected. So that is why I was speaking of a requirement of a credit line to support and reschedule this.
The plot thickens. Sources confirm Singapore arbitration filing by Chinese organic fertilizer company. Not a big deal. WHO official clarifies that South African lab data doesn't show Omicron vaccine efficacy loss.
It's only looking at one element. I think it's premature to conclude that this reduction in neutralizing activity would result in a significant reduction in vaccine effectiveness.
Not on my watch. The opposition accuses the government of interfering in the justice system as the minister offers to leave if proven. All this and much more coming up on this Thursday, the 9th of December 2021.
නැවුම් කුළුබඩු 12ක එකතුවකින් no biryani mix restaurant රසට බිරියානියක් දැන් ගෙදරදීම.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Shanella Fernando in your top stories for tonight. Sri Lankan health authorities reassured the public today that they are one step ahead of the possible threats the new variant could pose to the country and that all measures have already been taken. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization said today that the data provided by the South African study does not imply that the effectiveness of vaccines are lower when used against Omicron, as it has only focused on neutralizing antibodies. In the meantime, the Pfizer booster dose will be administered to all people over 30 from tomorrow in Colombo.
According to the World Health Organization, the Omicron variant has now been identified in 57 countries, even though the variant has spread rapidly to over 50 countries in just 2 weeks. The global health body says that preliminary data suggests that the variant may be a milder version of the disease. As the data is still preliminary, Director General of the WHO, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, says that it's still too early to provide a definitive answer to this just yet. Nevertheless, they warn that any complacency by governments could cost lives.
Even though we still need answers to some crucial questions, we're not defenseless against Omicron or Delta. The steps countries take today and in the coming days and weeks will determine how Omicron unfolds. If countries wait until their hospitals start to fill up, it's too late. Don't wait. Act now.
As such, Sri Lanka's Ministry of Health is reassuring the public that all measures have been taken to ensure that the healthcare system is ready for any future threats.
මේ මොහොත වෙද්දී අපිට මුළු ශ්‍රී ලංකාව පුරාම ඔක්සිජන් මතය අපින රෝගීන් 110ක් 120ක් අතර ප්‍රමාණයකට තමයි සීමා වෙන්නේ. ඉතින් අනාගතයේදී අපිට නව ප්‍රභේද ඇති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ව්‍යාප්තිය වෙනස් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. රජයක් වශයෙන් සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශය වශයෙන් ගත හැකි හැම ක්‍රියාමාර්ගයක්ම ගන්න සූදානම් වෙලා ඉන්නේ. රෝගී සත්කාර කැඳවල් 40000ක් ආසන්න ප්‍රමාණයකට අපි පවත්වාගෙන ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා. ඒකෙන්ද අනාගතයේදී කුමන හෝ ආකාරයකින් බලපෑමක් ඇති වුවහොත් ඒ සඳහා අපි අදාළ ක්‍රියාකාරකම් ඒ ආකාරයෙන් සිදු කර යන්න සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශය වශයෙන් සූදානම් වෙලා තියෙනවා.
In the meantime, South African scientists revealed data over the Omicron variant's increased ability to evade vaccine-induced immunity on Tuesday. According to the study, a 41-fold drop in the antibody response against the Omicron was reported, much higher than the Delta and Beta variants, which only showed a 5- and 8-fold drop. The preliminary African study had been conducted on patients who had been administered with the Pfizer jab. However, the World Health Organization stepped in and clarified that the study only focused on neutralizing antibodies, one aspect of the vast and complex human immune system.
it's only looking at one element, just the neutralizing antibodies, and we really haven't got information on the effectiveness. So I think it's premature to conclude that this reduction in neutralizing activity would result in a significant reduction in vaccine effectiveness. We do not know that because, as you know, the immune system is much more complex. They're the T cells, they're the memory B cells. And so what we really need now is a coordinated research effort and not jumping to conclusions on study by study.
In the meantime, Pfizer-BioNTech announced that its own clinical studies produced data indicating that getting 2 doses of its vaccination wouldn't develop significant protection against infection. However, the company added that the preliminary data also suggests that higher levels of protection were seen in by people who had obtained a 3rd dose. Company officials also stated that even though people might not necessarily be protected from reinfection after the full 2-dose regime, memory T and B cells of the immune system would help prevent severe disease complications. In other developments, a group of Japanese researchers announced today that the rate of infection of the Omicron variant is 4.2 times higher than that of the Delta variant. The group had examined genetic information of about 200 cases reported from South Africa from September until November. They also stated that the effectiveness of COVID-19 induced immunity against the highly mutated variant stood only at about 20% in South Africa.
Tourism stakeholders are calling for the extension of a credit line and a rescheduling of their debts once the government's loan moratorium is lifted so that hotel operators can deal with accumulated interest charges. Speaking to Indivari Amuwatta on our current affairs program at Hyde Park on AdaDerana 24 today, past president of the Sri Lanka Association of Inbound Tour Operators, Mahin Karyavasam, and former president of the Hotels Association of Sri Lanka, Anura Lokuhetty, also called on the government to end the discrimination of the sector in terms of utility charges and some local authority tariffs.
With the emergence of the Omicron variant across the world, hopes of a resumption of international travel have been somewhat dampened. With that, from a Sri Lankan perspective, the big question remains on how this will affect Sri Lanka's own plans to return to normalcy in its biggest foreign exchange earner, the tourism industry. However, the past president of the Sri Lanka Association of Inbound Tour Operators, Mahin Karyavasam, and former president of the Hotels Association of Sri Lanka, Anura Lokuhetty, say that there are some signs that give the industry hope.
We're talking about the new COVID-19 coronavirus variants that could possibly dampen, as I said, the industry's outlook. But how do you all see this?
I think, first of all, it depends on the countries that we are getting. Our major markets have been Europe and India, of course. But because of this new variant, some of the main European countries have slowed down. But having said that, the whole of the Eastern Europe and Russia has picked up. And we are expecting many clients to come over there.
Does that mean we do not have to have much fear about the current trend globally?
I think we don't have to really worry too much about it.
Okay.
And especially also the WHO has issued a statement today, very positive, where they say that the variant is okay with the Pfizer vaccine. So I think most of us are vaccinated very well over here.
From the hotelier's perspective, when this new variant is stoking fresh fears across the globe, how do your sector feel?
I think if travel agents are not scared, then we don't have to be scared at all, because most of the
because you'll have the numbers coming in to cater to.
Yeah.
Yes.
But on the other hand, I think since Sri Lanka has had to a great extent completed a very good vaccination program, and also people, I would say, are more now prepared for this kind of thing. Because I do not think that it will be a major issue, but it's too premature for us to make statements as hoteliers and travel agents, because we are not health experts. But according to the WHO, the latest statement, it gives more hope to us.
However, Karyavasam also expressed some concern over steps being taken by the government to bring in a new tourism act, which he says seems to be aimed at alienating the private sector, which make up 99% of tourism operators.
A little bit disturbed that there is going to be plans for a new tourism act to come in, where the role of the private sector is not highlighted and it's more towards the government sector. I think that will not be a successful formula to go ahead with. We went and met our Honourable Minister, explained to him, and he understood the problem. So these are little things that
but
we
why
have.
Does the private sector feel alienated?
The tourism is a heavily, how should I say, participated by the private sector, 99%. And also we came forward to provide 1% of our total revenue for the promotions. That is what is called TDL,
right.
Tourism development levy. And anyway, right now we have a much bigger situation than talking of act. Right now we are working for the survival.
But shouldn't also the ground be prepared for the post-pandemic situation?
It is the biggest challenge we have because it's an industry where a lot of investments have been made. A lot of people's lives are dependent upon countries' main foreign exchange earning avenues. So therefore we have to really think of it. That's why we are saying right now let's concentrate more for at least next 1 or 2 years. How can we get out of this difficult time, and then we can sit down nicely and discuss the whole matter again, and if there are any amendments required, do the necessary amendments, and then go in a more sustainable manner.
Meanwhile, with the government now planning for what it terms a soft landing approach once debt moratoriums are lifted, Lokuheti offered some suggestions to the government in how it should approach the issue.
Right now the moratorium is helping a lot because at least you don't have to look for money to pay to the bank.
Sure.
So, but even though that we are not paying the installment, it has got accumulated and there is additional interest collected. So that is why I was speaking of a requirement of a credit line to support and reschedule this. Imagine if a hotel closes, it is not the people who are directly employed, the person who supplies vegetables, all these other items, then the people who provide transport. They are first, we must sustain the parent, you see, that is the hotel. So if the hotel is maintained and helped, then the entire society will get supported. So therefore we have to really ensure that some strong steps are taken to reschedule the loans and support this in.
Lokuheti meanwhile also expressed concern over what he says is the industry being unnecessarily discriminated against in terms of utility costs and even local authority taxes, despite its massive contribution to the country's foreign reserves.
Our biggest issue today is cost of food items, and we are also requested the government authorities to look at us in two other most important areas. One area is electricity. We pay higher electricity rate than all other industries. Local authority taxes are much higher for tourism and for no reason, and we contribute so much to the country's economic growth.
Foreign exchange.
Those are the things that I was talking about, policy matters kind of thing. We shouldn't get discriminated. Those are two major items that we are faced with. On top of that, now the new 2.5% tax that is going to be imposed will be very disastrous for the industry, because from the top line, if you take 2.5, naturally we have to increase our rates. Our products will have to compete with Thailand and many other parts of the world.
Qingdao Sivin Biotech has launched arbitration measures in Singapore against Colombo Commercial Fertilizers Limited with regard to the controversial organic fertilizer contract rejected by the Sri Lankan authorities. The arbitration has been filed in Singapore despite the contract stipulating Colombo in case of any arbitration required.
Several media reports have been circulating stating that Qingdao Sivin Biotech has launched international arbitration procedures to settle its dispute with Sri Lanka over its controversial organic fertilizer contract. According to the reports, the arbitration procedure has been instituted through the Singapore International Arbitration Centre against Colombo Commercial Fertilizers Limited, the Sri Lanka state fertilizer distributor. Reports also say that a notice of arbitration has been issued about the arbitration moves in Singapore, which sources within Colombo Commercial Fertilizers Limited have confirmed receipt. Sources also, however, pointed out to a clause in the contract that calls for any arbitration procedures to be held in Colombo. The fertilizer controversy erupted in the month of October after the Ministry of Agriculture rejected a shipment of organic fertilizer produced by Qingdao Sivin Biotech after the National Plant Quarantine Service detected harmful bacteria in samples of the shipment during 2 rounds of tests. As a result, a vessel named MV Hippo Spirit that was carrying the 20,000 metric tons of fertilizer from China to Sri Lanka was barred from entering the Colombo port. Due to this, the vessel, regardless attempted to enter Sri Lankan waters, was left anchored off the coast of Beruala for several weeks. As per maritime tracking sites, the vessel has finally left Sri Lanka's maritime space and is currently traversing the Straits of Malacca. The vessel is expected to dock at the port of Singapore as its next stop.
More news on the other side of this break. Stay tuned.
Big 3.
Welcome back in more news. Responding to opposition accusations of the government engaging in interference in judicial processes, especially in terms of cases filed during the previous regime that have been systematically withdrawn by the Attorney General's Department, Justice Minister Ali Sabri offered to go home if they can prove such accusations. These comments were made during the committee stage debate on the appropriation bill pertaining to the Ministry of Justice today.
Last year, when I spoke on the votes of Ministry of Justice, I said that the Minister of Justice must be feeling like the Minister of Ports and Shipping of Afghanistan. And I'd like to repeat that today because he, in fact, is very uncomfortable in that post. We have seen in the media that the Minister of Justice had tried to resign. Now this is very strange that a person tries to resign but is unable to resign. But all that points to his uncomfortableness in holding this post, that of Minister of Justice in the current regime. I don't blame him for that. The government, for all its rhetoric, has unashamedly been interfering in the process of justice. As I speak, I read news that former Navy Commander Vasantha Karanagoda is tipped to be appointed a governor to replace former Governor Raja Kodure. But Vasantha Karanagoda is an accused in one of the emblematic cases in this country. Abduction for ransom by naval personnel of 11 youth in Colombo who were taken to Trincomalee Naval Base and done to their death. Now the police, having conducted investigation, have named several suspects, including the Navy commander at that time. And inexplicably, the Attorney General, in a mighty hurry, in an indecent hurry, is trying to withdraw indictments against Vasantha Karanagoda.
I take this opportunity to thank President Gotabaya Rajapaksa for having the single courage to appoint a Muslim considered as a numerical minority as our Minister of Justice. And in turn, for his own credit, Honorable Sabri has boldly, honestly and very openly had taken unprecedented steps to restore, repair and reconstruct our justice system in this country in an era where the younger generation is either cynical or not believing in the highest courts of this land.
Then, මේගොල්ලෝ ප්‍රථම වතාවට ඉතිපතිතුමා නඩුවක් ඉල්ලාස් කරනවා වගේ තමයි මේ පෙන්වන්න හදන්නේ. මම මුලින්ම ගරු සභාපතිතුමනි ඔබතුමන්ට පැහැදිලි කරලා කියන්න ඕන පසුගිය කාලය තුලදී කොහොමද මේ රටේ නීතිපති දෙපාර්තමේන්තුව අර්ලියගහ මන්දිරයට සම්බන්ධ කරගත්තා. 20 වන සංශෝධනය පස්සේ නෙවෙයි මේක උනේ. 19 වන සංශෝධනයේ තියෙද්දි තමයි දූෂණ මර්දන කොමිටුවක් කියලා කොමිටුවක් පීටුවගත්තා. ඒ පීටුවගෙන ඒකට සම්බන්ධ කරගත්තා නීතිපති දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ නිලධාරී. ඔවුන් එකතු වෙලා පැමිණිලි හදනවා. ඒ පැමිණිලි දාන්නේ විපක්ෂයේ ඉන්න තෝරගත්තු දේශපාලඥයන්ට විරුද්ධව විතරයි. ඒව අරගෙන ගිහිල්ලා ඒකටම කියලා අලුත් පොලිසියක් හදාගන්න. මොකක්ද ඒ පොලිසිය? FCID කියන පොලිසිය. ඒ පොලිසිය බැලු බැල්මට පොලිස් ආඥාපනතේ ප්‍රතිපාදන වලට පටහැනි. මේගොල්ලෝ අරලියගහ මන්දිරයේ ඇතුලේ ඉඳගෙන නඩු ටිකක් තෝරගෙන මේවා ටිකක් ගන්න කියලා යවනවා. නීතිපති දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවේ නිලධාරීනුත් ඒකට වාඩි වෙලා මේ නඩු ටික දැම්මට පස්සේ නීතිපතිතුමා කොහොමද ස්වාධීනව තමන්ගේම නිලධාරීන් යවන පැමිණිල්ලක් දිහා බලන්නේ. එතනයි නීතිය කෙලසුවේ ප්‍රථම වතාවට. පළවෙනි නඩුවේ මම පෙනී හිටියා, දෙවෙනි නඩුවෙත් මම පෙනී හිටියා. ඒ නඩු දෙකේම හිටියේ දිලීප පීරිස් මහත්තයා තමයි අපිට විරුද්ධව. ඔබතුමන්ලාගේ ආණ්ඩුවේ කාලේ. එකක් ජනාධිපතිතුමාට විරුද්ධ නඩුව, ඒ කාලේ දෙවෙන්න ගාමිණී සෙනරත් මහත්තයා ඇතුළු 5 දෙනෙකුට විරුද්ධ නඩුව. ගාමිණී සෙනරත් මහත්තයා ඇතුළු 4 දෙනෙකුට විරුද්ධව චෝදනා 36කින් නඩු දාලා තිබුණා. 58ක් නඩුව ගත්තා. දිනපතා 9 ඉඳලා 5 වෙනකම්. ඒ ආණ්ඩුවේ තියෙද්දිම සම්පූර්ණ චෝදනාවලින්ම නිදහස් කරලා නිදොස් කරලා දැම්මා. මේ බොරු නඩු දැම්මම මොකද වෙන්නේ? හැබැයි අපි කියන්නට ඕන අපි මේ ආණ්ඩුව බාරගත්තට පස්සේ මේ අමාත්‍ය ධූරය බාරගත්තට පස්සේ එක දවසක අපි නීතිපතිවරයාට කිසිම විදියකට බලපෑමක් කරලා නැහැ. ඔප්පු කරොත් අපි කලිසම ගලවලා ගෙදර යනවා.
The Commissioner of Human Rights, Dr. Nimal Karunasiri, said today that a report of the Human Rights Commission with regard to the gas explosions will be prepared within 2 weeks. He said that the officials of the gas companies will be summoned next Friday to record their statements on the spate of explosions across the country.
The State Minister of Consumer Protection, Lasanthala Giyavana, presented the report of the Ministerial Consultative Committee appointed to probe gas-related explosions in Parliament today. However, the State Minister told Parliament that a further meeting is required to announce the final recommendations of the committee. In the meantime, officials of the State Ministry of Consumer Protection, Consumer Affairs Authority and Sri Lanka Standards Institution, who was summoned to provide a statement with regard to the gas explosions that occurred island-wide, arrived at the Human Rights Commission today. Speaking to media, Commission of the Human Rights Commission Dr. Nimal Karunasiri revealed that officials of the gas companies will be summoned next Friday to record their statements. He also said that the report of the Commission with regard to the matter will be prepared in 2 weeks' time.
නෑ ඇත්තම සංයුතිය වෙනස් වෙලා කියන කාරණේ සාකච්ඡාවේදී ඔවුන්ගෙන් අදහස් වුණා ඍජුව කිව්වේ නැතුණා වෙනසක් වෙලා තියෙනවා.
Meanwhile, the writ petition filed against the Trade Minister, the State Minister of Consumer Protection, the Chairman of the Consumer Affairs Authority and the Director General of the Sri Lanka Standards Institution with regard to the gas explosions is scheduled to be taken up for hearing tomorrow. The petition requests the court to issue an order to Inspector General of Police to conduct an investigation against these officials under the country's criminal laws.
The Sri Lankan Navy marked its 71st anniversary today with a host of religious and other celebratory events. As the Navy marked over 70 years of loyal and selfless service to Sri Lanka, the Navy anchored its capital ships off the coast of Goldface Green for public display today, and they will stay until tomorrow.
Sri Lanka's first line of defense, the Sri Lanka Navy, marked its 71st anniversary today. The origin of Sri Lanka's naval arm dates all the way back to the year 1937, when it was initially dubbed as the Ceylon Naval Volunteer Force. The naval arm was only established officially on the 9th of December in 1950 after the Navy Act was passed in Parliament, moving to identify it as the Royal Ceylon Navy. However, after Sri Lanka became a republic in 1972, the naval force was identified as the Sri Lanka Navy. Since then, the Sri Lankan Navy played a vital role in liberating the country from the terrorist organization LTTE during the 30-year civil war. The Navy has also protected Sri Lankan waters against piracy, illegal fishing activities, narcotic smuggling activities, and ocean pollution. As the naval force celebrates its 71st anniversary today, officials stated that 1,768 naval officers will receive promotions. Under the guidance of the Navy Commander, a range of celebratory events was conducted in each naval command, giving pride and place to naval customs and religious rituals. As part of the religious activities of the 71st anniversary celebrations, the Kanchuka Puja and flag blessing ceremonies were held at the Ruwanweli Saya and sacred Jai Shri Mahabodhi in Anuradhapura to receive blessings. Further, the capital ships of the Sri Lanka Navy will be anchored off Goldface Green tomorrow, allowing the general public to catch a glimpse of the naval power of Sri Lanka.
නාවික හමුදාවේ 70ක් වසරක අභිමානය සමරීමට ක්‍රියාන්විත වලදී නැති වුණු සහ අතුරුදහන් වුණු පුද්ගලයන් සිහිපත් කරලා සහ දැනට ශ්‍රී ලංකා නාවික හමුදාවේ සේවය කරන සියලුම නාවිකයන්ුත් ඔවුන්ගේ පවුල් සහභාගීන්ටත් සුභාසිංසනය ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරලා ආගමික කටයුතු අපි කරනවා. ඒකම පුත්තලම කලපුර ප්‍රදේශයේ නව ජටියක් විවෘත කිරීමට බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා මහ ජනතාවගේ සුභසිද්ධි සඳහා.
The oil share price index ended in the green today as it gained 157.36 points to close at 11,178.43, while the S&P SL20 index ended at 3,995.74 after gaining 35.90 points. The overall market turnover for the day was reported as 153 billion rupees. Now here's Dimantha Matthew with today's market update.
Today we saw a bit of a different market conditions where the market started off in the red territory and stayed for the first 1 hour of trading in the red territory and then started to gain confidence buying into some of the counters that has significantly dipped in value, especially the diversified financial sector high market cap counters that had a drastic drop over the last 1 to 1.5 weeks. Saw suddenly renewed buying interest coming into these counters. With it, we saw a strong buying trend emerging and accelerated upward trend was created with this, and with that we are seeing a 157 point gain during the day.
The rupee once again ended at 202 rupees and 99 cents against the US dollar today. Now let's take a look at how the rupee traded against other major currencies during the day. with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of First at 9. Good night.